on our call.
I know, it's all good. It's all good.
You look adorable as per usual.
Oh, thanks. You too. Hello. Someone might have heard that. But hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, and we're
It's Wednesday,
live.
dude.
Woohoo! Women that shred, and I have my special guest, Gabriela Mendicino. Hello, sweetie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, do you like to go by Gabby or Gabriela?
It depends. It's
Okay.
I'm using it as like a professional rebrand because our HR person at Active Comply really was introduced to me as Gabby, but I had been going by Gabriela, and then people were getting confused. And then someone else mentioned the other day, like your LinkedIn still says Gabriela, and what if they try to message you at Gabriela at activecomply.com, but it's actually Gabby at Active Comply. So it just depends on your mood. So how are you feeling today? Do you feel more of like a Gabby vibe or a Gabriela
No,
vibe?
you know what? And I love that you have like a little accent there because I'm feeling the Gabriela vibe because my mom's Mexican. I have an aunt that's Gabriela. And so for me, it being that I'm in my mom's home, I feel like it's only very,
Is that where you are? That is beautiful. And yeah, my mom's from Nicaragua. And then I mention to people, yes, in fact, or I'll introduce myself. My name is Gabriela Mendicino. And they're like, and I'm like, I have no idea what you said. And I know my mom's going to yell at me later for not putting more effort into learning Spanish. And I'm sorry.
I know that's the tough part is that my kids don't know it. And my ex-husband's more Latino than I am. And then my mom is, and I speak it fluently, to each other. And so it is difficult being, not being able to be bilingual when everyone thinks that you should be.
I know, and I will. I swear I will. I've like downloaded apps, and I want to get like this like CD series, and I just haven't quite done it. I've been feeling more. I've been driving more with sign language because we're trying to teach my son sign language as he's
Okay.
growing up. I'm learning with him, so it's like literally like little bits at a time. But
no, that's great. I feel like it's more and more important. And then especially in our industry, I feel that the more knowledgeable we are with different languages, cultures, everything, it makes sense. So I love that. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. But
Yeah.
don't congratulate me until I get more serious about learning Spanish, because otherwise I'll just take it as like a pass to be like, oh, I don't need to. Raquel said it was okay.
Raquel said it was okay. Great. So Gabriela, we were discussing the whole concept came up, I think, because you were in the comments on one of our shows and we were talking about kind of, young professionals coming into the industry. And it's funny because that's kind of like a huge topic with all these companies trying to recruit, and we're trying to, kind of modernize the industry, bring in new blood. And so bringing them in and then retaining them, I feel like that's definitely a hot topic. And being that you're younger, I don't even know how old you are, and you don't need to share with us how old you are, but I know that you are younger than a lot of the people that are in the industry at the moment,
Yeah,
right?
it's not a super secret. Not a super secret. I am 26. I'm going to be 27 in April, and I am on like the perfect line, depending on who you ask that day and what you're referring to. I could be Gen Z or I could be millennial, depending on where people think the cutoff was in '95. So
Okay.
I like to think that it just depends on how I'm like identifying that day. So today I'm feeling more Gen Z. I'm going to say
So
that.
it's Gabriela Gen Z.
And then yesterday, maybe I was, kind of leaning into my 90s baby references. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a millennial. So I'm just very young millennial, right on the brink. Very old Gen Z, very young millennial. So I'm at a good space.
So when you came into the industry, were people very quick to be like, "Oh, I'm a millennial. We have to talk to you differently, treat you differently"? Like, did you feel that coming in?
There was an assumption that I know everything about technology, which is not true. I like to joke kind of that technology naturally does not like me because I once ran over my laptop with my car by accident, and it just has been holding a grudge since then. And to have people, so I first got hired in to the mortgage collaborative. That was my introduction to the mortgage industry.
And that's where we met.
Yes, yes. And it was an instant connection,
Yes.
instant connection. But when I first got hired on, we didn't have like an IT person, and they still don't have one right now, as far as I know. But there were a lot of questions of, do you know how to do this? Or I'd kind of help depending on the day and the project. Like we were trying to stream for the 12 days of TMC, trying to do some live streaming and trying to figure out on the back end how to actually get everything connected and make it look nice and have like a little logo on the bottom was becoming the bane of our existence. So with just a couple of weeks to go, we had to like scramble and get everything together. And I will say, I can't generalize too much. That'll be one of the points that I bring up, is that there's a lot of generalization that goes on, or putting people into, oh, you must automatically know how to do this, or you don't know how to do this, or this is what your personality type must be like, because of the generation you're in. I will say that generally speaking, people my age are really good at Googling things. So I had no idea how to, and it's a skill set. Knowing how to Google something and knowing how to go through a search engine is a skill set, because you need to filter through all of the useless crap that doesn't apply to what you're asking. You have to know what to ask, how to ask it. And so something that had been plaguing us for like 2 months took me a couple of days, and I was like, oh, okay, now I know how to do that. And then, you know, our education and events coordinators like, this took me forever to get done. How did you do it? I'm like, I went on Reddit and scrolled through a couple of forums of people who have had similar problems. So that's definitely a proud skill set of mine. I don't know how to do that, but I can probably figure it out.
Gosh. So how many years have you been in the industry then?
A little under 3. TMC was my first experience with that. I was with them for about 2 and some change years, and then I just started working with Active Comply.
Right. Okay. And are there like, are you that person that kind of gravitates towards people your age, or are you really trying to kind of, you know, like what we talked about last week, mentorship, you know, looking up to people that have been in the industry for a while? Like, are you kind of trying to learn and emulate them, or are you trying to just kind of navigate it your own way? I'm curious.
It's kind of more my own way, to be honest. I don't feel any particular like need to like latch on to a certain age group of any kind, just, you know, I only want to hang out with people who are older and more experienced than me so that I can glean off of their experience. I only want to hang out with people who are my age because they get some of my references, or I just feel more comfortable with them. It really just depends on where I'm at and really just the people's personality too. Because like I said, you and I became good friends right from the get-go, and, you know, made one of my first videos based off of your.
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, we did a little video together.
Yeah. And it's still somewhere on my LinkedIn or my Instagram or something. I have to go back and find it. But during that first conference, because it was Nashville, right?
It was my first time in Nashville too.
It was also, no, it wasn't my first time in Nashville, but it was my first conference, TMC conference, first mortgage industry conference. And I was, really surprised by how everything went down, because to be honest, not having been super experienced with that, I was like, this is going to be really boring, and I don't really know how much fun I'm going to have there. But I ended up having a blast. I did walk around grabbing onto people and being like, excuse me, how old are you? And they're like, I'm 24. I'm like, you're one of 4 people here under the age of 35. Let's band together and become friends. I kind of latched us all together.
You tend to kind of think like, all right, well, they get me.
Yeah. So I actually am still connected with quite a few of those people. So it just depends. I feel like there's a lot of information, a lot that I can learn from everyone around me, I guess. Is my mindset, is that I try to surround myself with people who are smarter than me, because that's the only way that I'm ever going to get smarter. There's that saying that if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. And I don't think that that's really restricted by age. And even if there's somebody who doesn't know as much as I do on a particular topic, like there's still so much that I can learn from them that I wouldn't have picked up from anybody else. So I just try to talk to everybody. And that's why I like grabbed you at conference, and I think you're cool, and I want to learn from you.
And I was like, ooh, she's like young and cool, and she thinks I'm cool, so that might mean something.
No,
No,
you're
but
absolutely wonderful.
no, thank you. But I wanted to, kind of ask you too, because yesterday I was at the MBA commercial multifamily conference. I went to the Empower Luncheon. And I was sitting there with this woman, younger woman, and I was telling her about the show, and she asked me what the topic was. And she mentioned that she was just having a conversation with one of her friends in the industry, and that her friend thought that, or felt that it was more difficult to be a young professional than to be a woman now. Like now there's even more of this kind of stigma behind being young in the corporate world. So I was like, ooh, I'm going to ask Gabriela about that, if she feels like there's any kind of difference there.
I think that you can kind of be, I think that there is a difference. You can be either being a young woman in the industry specifically has been interesting, because I can already see in the short amount of time that I've been here, it's been changing in leaps and bounds, and there's different expectations, and people are, I think, like calling each other out on their like BS more often than not. I was like, am I allowed to swear here? Probably not. People are being called out on things more than I've seen, and I've heard anecdotally from people who have been in the industry longer. They're like, this is completely different than even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think as a young professional, I personally am always fighting against, especially with my personality. I like to think of myself as I'm outgoing, I'm kind of bubbly, but people automatically assume that she doesn't know what she's talking about, and she doesn't have the experience to back it up. So why should I listen to what she has to say? And I kind of have been trying to assert myself more. There's something that I've read in a few different places, which is you shouldn't be shrinking yourself to fit into somebody else's box. You just need a bigger box. You need to be in a different room, that you don't have to make yourself smaller to be in. So I've been trying to do that in my personal life. So now I kind of like strut around and I'm like, well, yes, I am good at my job. I am a competent professional and woman. And also I was humming songs from the Cheetah Girls 3, One World, while I was making my lunch today, because that's what I was feeling. So,
and I know exactly what you're talking about, because I have a 7-year-old daughter, so I've seen a lot of the Cheetah Girls movies.
Yes. So like you can be both. I don't know if I have enough enough stories of my own to say that it's harder to be one or the other, but it definitely is difficult being both. And then now at this point that I'm at in my life too, is being a young mom and also trying to balance that with, and finding like work-life balance has been interesting, not because of other people's expectations, but because of what I think I need to do to remind people that I deserve to be here and I know what I'm talking about.
It's like we still feel like we have to prove ourselves.
But I don't know who I'm proving myself to. I'm wondering if there's really people out there who are looking at me and be like, oh, she doesn't know. She couldn't get it. Or if that's just my own.
They're walking around waiting to be like, you know what? You finally you're good. You've graduated.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, where is that line? And then also, like, in some of my experiences with people, when I do get talked down to, I'm like, you're not that much older than I am. You don't remember what it was like to be in a room trying to communicate, grow as a professional, and people are putting you off to the side because they don't think that your points are valid. Like, it wasn't that far away, or was it just so crappy that now you feel like it's a rite of passage that everybody has to go through? So also, as I grow in my professional career, I'm trying really hard to open more doors for professionals that are even younger than I am, who have less experience than I am, and really trying to remind myself each step of the way, you were just right there. So I have no room to judge when somebody's like, I don't have a resume yet, I haven't made any connections yet. They're like, I was there not that long ago. And be like, all right, how can I help you with that? There's no shame. Everybody starts somewhere. And, I think it would be good if everybody was able to kind of remember and like tap into their empathetic side and remember where they were not that long ago too. This is a lot of rambling, but I hope that was
no, it's not rambling. It's great insight. Because I also believe that, especially with the mortgage industry, we want all these young professionals coming in, and but a lot of times we don't want experience. Like, we want them straight out the gate out of college, and they don't have any experience. But so if they're coming in and we're having to teach them everything, we also have to give them grace of like, yeah, they're learning.
Yeah.
So it's that balance of, we get it that you don't know much, but also kind of there just has to be that level of respect, I think.
I just had a great conversation this morning with Mike Prince, who's one of the founders of Active Comply. I've been here for like 3 weeks now, and it's been really cool because the entire operations and sales team is completely run by young professionals. And I didn't know that going into it because I don't know, I didn't know. And then going into the meeting and be like, oh, hello, all of these similarly aged.
Well, yeah, Blake is one of them who I had a conversation with straight out of college.
There's Blake. There's Melissa is the VP / head of compliance. She's kind of running all the things on the operations thing, and she's a couple years older than I am. And she's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Like, sharpest tack in the box. Always is like, she's the kind of smart in which she can explain something to you in several different ways, not just the way that she can understand it. And I told her that the other day. I'm like, that is a skill, because not everybody can do that, and I appreciate you. So I was talking with Mike Prince this morning, and I said, like, was this unintentional? Did you think that it would be helpful with? So Active Comply is a social media compliance monitoring resource. So by nature, it helps having younger professionals or people who just have more experience with social media, who grew up with it, maybe being at the helm because they innately understand it. But I'm like, did you intend for this to happen? He's like, no, it just kind of comes down to good people know good people. You stumble across these people who are just really good at their jobs, and there wasn't necessarily thinking about them as, you're a young person, I want to hire you for this. It's just, you are you're great at what you do, and I want you to be a part of this team. And we were talking about the merits of failing and being given a space in which you have to take responsibility for your business decisions. I haven't been in a place, at least 100% yet, with a job where they're like, this is completely your baby. Whatever you decide to do with it, if you end up losing money, then we learn from it. It isn't that you failed and now you're out. It's just, okay, we learned a lesson. What can we do next from it? And then how much they invest in their employees too with education has been really stellar also. And I feel like if more people in the industry went out to educate their young employees, specifically their new talent, with the intent of having them grow as professionals, then you accidentally retain them more because they're more invested in your company as well. But I feel like people are afraid to do that because they're like, oh, I don't want to pay for this person to get this certification or do this thing, and then they're just going to take it somewhere else. It's a risk that you take. But then it also...
that excuse of oh, if we invest too much and then they go somewhere else. I'm like, well, maybe if your company was absolutely amazing and the culture, you wouldn't have to worry about that, right? I feel like if they wouldn't go anywhere if they're happy where they're at with their coworkers, with the environment, the culture, their leadership. So then why not invest in that person? I feel like a lot of times people forget that. You know?
Mm-hmm. I think too, now more than ever, we're seeing people they're drawing the line. They'll be like, all right, I will work here, but only if these particular needs are met. And it depends on what they prioritize. Maybe they want to have a better work-life balance, or they want to have really good benefits, or they want to be paid fairly. We have the internet, so it's really easy to communicate with other people and find out what is a competitive wage, or what kind of benefits can you expect, or what's good benefits versus really basic. And more you're seeing people, instead of saying, okay, well, I'm going to stay with this company for the sake of staying with this company out of loyalty, it's more I'm not happy here either because of somebody that I'm working with, or it's just a bad work environment, or there's no work-life balance whatsoever, and they just boogie. They're like, all right, I'm out. I can go find something else. So you need to have a well-rounded, overall good work culture, or people are just, there's other things that they can go do. And then if they do go do it, I really feel like you can't hold them to, unless they were being jerks on the way out. But I don't think you can really be upset at them for wanting to better themselves or make a better decision for them or their family. So I think the more people are conscious of that too. Would you really have wanted to stay at a job where you don't get along with your coworkers, or you're not being paid enough, or even if you say, no, I didn't want to work there, but I did because I had to, I don't think people are falling back on that excuse as much anymore.
Yeah. But I do believe there's kind of that fine line, especially when you're being interviewed or you're, looking for a job. Um, I feel like the young professionals or just the younger generations, they do have a little bit more of that sense of like about being vocal about things and sharing their sense of like what they're thinking. Like, I feel like that's generational. I feel like the older generations are kind of like, all right, I'm really lucky to even be sitting here being interviewed or to get this position. So they like, I'm not going to do anything to rock the boat, if you will. But I feel like the younger generations are more willing to tell people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that way? Like where it's for someone like your age to come in and be like, hey, this is what I'm really good at, or this is like what I don't want to do, and just really be upfront about it. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I think like, ooh, gosh, like maybe you just like shot yourself in the foot by doing that. But then again, I have yet to be like an employer interviewing people. So I'm kind of curious, like how that kind of is panning out these days, right?
In my experience, like going into this new position with Active Comply, I was just terrified because first of all, I was really excited about it and I really wanted to get this job. I'm the marketing and communications manager there. I'm the first like official marketing person that they've had. And I was like, there's so much stuff that I could do. And I have so many ideas, but I have to get in the door first. Yeah. And so going into my interview, I was just racking my brain. I was, talking with my husband and just really agonizing over it. I'm like, how honest should I be about what I feel comfortable doing, what they might have to like outsource for, how honest should I be in general? Should I be like gung ho, like I can do it. Yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. Because in previous positions, I've said yes to everything. I can do everything. And then I end up really stressed out after. I'm like, all right, so in the long run, if this doesn't work out, then maybe that'll open up an opportunity for somewhere that is better matched with my skills or does meet more of my expectations with the work-life balance. So I went in and was honest about like, I'm really good at this, this, and this. I'm learning about this, this, and this, and I want to learn about these things. So I think too, like if you are someone who is just starting out and you're looking to interview somewhere, instead of saying like, I can't do that, you can say, I want to learn about these things and haven't had the opportunity yet, but give me a space in which I can learn that. And I promise I will just blow your expectations out of the water. We will do great things if you give me an opportunity to learn with you. And we can learn together. And that worked out really nicely here. I've been here for 3 weeks. They haven't kicked me out yet. So
no, I love that response. And also it kind of leads towards how we were talking about, where there's also kind of that expectation from the younger professional, like you're newer, you need to earn your place, you need to prove yourself. So that means that you need to hustle and grind and be here overtime, or, go to all the events. Like, how do you feel about that? Because I think that's another thing too, that it's just because you're young doesn't mean that you're like the Energizer Bunny,
So yeah, it's really tiring because I have like I think a good level of energy, but I can only maintain it for so long. And I describe myself as an extrovert, but I am like powered by people. But at the end of the night, especially at like a conference, I go home and I go to sleep. I try to stay out for a little bit with everybody. And then while all the other professionals are out like playing and drinking and partying, I'm like, bye everybody, I'm going to bed, because I need to take care of myself in order to bring that same energy into the next day. I've heard about the expectations of being out at like the social events specifically, and like you have to be seen in order to build on those relationships. I think I have like a pretty distinct line that I've drawn in the sand where I'm like, I'm not going to stay out past this time, because then I'm going to be grumpy tomorrow and nobody wants to see that. And I'm not going to imbibe too much alcohol because I'm going to be grumpy tomorrow and nobody wants to see that. And so I haven't had worry too much about that. But the hustle culture, I hope goes and dies in a hole. I don't think that's healthy for anybody. I think that there's going to be some weeks or some special occasions where, like Mike Prince said this morning, if something's on fire, like you have to put in the time to try to extinguish that just to help yourself in the long run. But making that like a constant, I'm always going to work until 11 o'clock at night. I'm always going to be working on the weekends. I'm always going to be working through holidays. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help your business. Maybe it helps you get your to-do list done faster, but I don't think it necessarily will help you personally. There's always, you have to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I try really hard to, I'm a very small cup. Like I don't have a lot of capacity sometimes to be overwhelmed. So I try to put in the work that I need to do a good job in the time that I have. But then at the end of the day, even though I work from home 24/7, at the end of the day, like I'm off, and I will get back to you tomorrow. I hope that there's a shift in our culture towards that, because I hate watching people, friends, family of mine just get burned out for the sake of, I have to do this because everyone else is doing it. And if I don't pull my weight, then I'm not going to be worth it anymore. And I think that is a matter of leadership also, exemplifying that. Because you can say, yeah, like don't work on the weekends. Turn off your phone after 5 p.m. Like tune out, but then they're still up until 11 and they're working on weekends and they're working on holidays. It makes you think that you're not doing the right thing. So if you want everyone in your company to display that work culture, you have to start it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is tough because I will tell you this, I'm like type A overachiever. I'm the type of person where I will answer email right away. Like even if it's like a 1 word, 2 word for work, even because a lot of times I'll get an email on the weekend, they'll say like, hey, I know it's the weekend, but when you have a chance, and I'm that person that like responds. And if there's other people on that thread, then I feel badly because I'm like, I don't want them thinking that they have to respond because I did, and I'm not trying to like set the bar or anything, but that's just my personality too. So it's something that I have to work on as well. And it's not so much of like I have someone pressuring me to work a lot. It's my own internal thing. But I think a lot has to do with because of the culture that we've kind of grown up in, where you had that idea of like that's how things work. So like you said, if we can change that, then there'll come a point where no one's going to really think that that's normal. Right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's normal. Even other countries, I think, is it France or some other countries, like you're not allowed to answer like work stuff after a certain hour, and then your weekends are your weekends. And I mean, they're really adamant of making sure that people take time to do their own thing. So maybe I think they were talking about maybe even having just like 4-day work days.
Yeah, right? I'm really curious as to how that could be implemented here. And I know in the mortgage industry and specifically, like you're kind of working on bank hours. And so you have to be available for your client base as long as they're open. So I do hope that we see more of a shift towards that. I hope even if it's the first steps are happening where people are trying to encourage their employees to use their PTO. Like seriously, if you have PTO, use your PTO. Take some time, drink some water, take a break. You deserve it. Something that I'm working through myself is that if I'm gone for a day, like things aren't going to come crumbling down around me. Even though I like to think that if I was gone, people would be like, where's Gabby? I really need her to be here. Yeah, I mean, but like take the time that you have, like take the time with your family that you have. Again, there's always going to be special circumstances. I think maybe hustle culture works better for some people than it does for others. I can't do it, especially after Seamus was born. I just don't have like the capacity to be on all the time. I need that time to recharge, or else I can't bring my best the next day. And I'm hoping that, like you said, there's going to be a generation coming up that'll be like, what? Like people, they did what? They worked on the week. What? They worked 5 days a week, or sometimes even 7. That's ridiculous. And I'm hoping that that'll be an alien concept someday. Yeah. Because, there's some stuff that I hear about now that I'm like, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. That sounds so stressful and unnecessary.
Yeah, no. And I just think it makes the life better and you know, more fun, and then we'll be happier people. And I
What
feel
is it like? It's you should work to live, not live to work.
yeah.
That's the thing. Because I mean, so much of our time, like my husband and I talk about it all the time. So much of our time goes into working, and if you don't like the place that you're working, then that's going to come home with you. Just like it's inevitable. But if you find somewhere that you like and you like the people that you're with, you get to actually come home with a good energy and enjoy your time there too. I really hope that we shift more towards that as a society, that people are more forgiving of themselves, that people are willing to give more opportunity to the young professionals in their organizations, that you realize that the stuff that you want are similar to what they want. Let them fail within an environment in which they're supported so they can learn, or else they're going to go and get that somewhere else. Yeah, I think that that's all of my words of wisdom for the day. That's my cap.
You had amazing words of wisdom. Like seriously, like I think this is great because, you know, even if an employer is listening to this, at least they're going to kind of hopefully understand a little bit better, like how important it is as a leader to create a certain culture where somebody feels like they like working there. Woo, what a concept.
If you're not hearing any feedback, I can almost guarantee that feedback is happening where you can't hear it. And so if you're not creating an environment in which people can come to you and know that like something is going to change, then you're not going to be, you can be like, come, like bring me your woes. I want to make things better. But if they don't see anything changing, they're not going to do that. And they can go wherever they need to. So there's a lot of opportunity to grow. And if you're like, we're doing great, I haven't heard any complaints, there are things happening and you just need to go find them or just listen better. Just listen
go
better.
to the water cooler.
Yeah. Be better.
All right. Well, our time is up for the day. Oh my gosh. Seriously, like 30 minutes.
So fast.
So fast. But I love talking to you, and I like that we were able to catch up. And just like you had messaged me last week, we'll have to do like check-ins.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, an actual. Well, yes. After this, I will message you about actually scheduling a time for us to meet up and talk about other things.
Yes. All right. Well, I know that it was kind of weird with the comments. Like, I guess they weren't showing up, so it's all good. So if you were tuning in, thank you for tuning in. I like to call people out and say thank you, but I don't know what was going on.
We'll just comment on everything after, so you'll get a whole stream of stuff in a minute.
So a huge thank you to everyone, and we will see you next week on Women That Shred. Woo woo.
Thank you so much, Raquel. You're wonderful, and thank you for all that you do. And thanks to all the ladies who have been featured on here. You're all rock stars. And when Raquel approached me, I was like, oh, I'm amongst mortgage goddesses.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a great week, everybody. Mwah.